Yes. Yeah.
But like the comparison, like with me and some of the other guys.
So that'd be something neat to see, the Harris Centers at
The Pirates playing in Williams.
Welcome to the Nowler Sports Podcast, episode 45, the home of sports talk for everyone. I'm David.
I'm Jason.
Welcome aboard. So any DVAs we got to do before we get started? Because I know there's normally something.
I'm 3-1 in the Baseball Together Fantasy Baseball League. That's all I got.
Oh, that's better than I think the Reds.
Yeah, the Reds are something else this year. It's kind of. I look at it the same way as I do the Pirates and the O's. It's sad because they're good teams.
But
it sucks because they're teams with histories, teams with loyal fan bases, and there's nothing that can be done.
It's funny as I saw one of those like food triangle things, like you know what I mean, don't you? I don't know.
The pyramid, a food pyramid.
Yes,
and the Reds are at the bottom. I saw that.
Yes, that the teams look to win. The okay teams, we'll do it next year, and then the Reds.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should acknowledge that. What's the score of the Caps game?
The Caps game is 3-3 going into overtime. So by the time you guys listen to this, that game will be over. But that would be a good segue to go into the first period.
Yeah, see, got some good ones every now and then.
There you go. Hockey playoff updates. This playoffs has been definitely surprising with some of the teams that you expected not to do well are actually putting up a fight. I'm not sure if you remember. You do remember Dan from the wedding that I played hockey with.
He's a Penguins fan. I know a few Penguins fans who are quite surprised that the team snuck into the playoffs based on how horrible I've been told they were playing this season.
Well, he was the same way too, and then he was like, "I'll be so shocked if they win one game." Now, I know after series after series after series of watching the Penguins in the playoffs year after year, they're a good team when they hit the playoffs. Despite how much I do not like the Penguins, I will say they are a good team in the playoffs.
Let me ask you this. Age is starting to catch up with them, is it not?
What, the Penguins?
Yeah.
Age be there.
Age and injuries.
Well, injuries right now, especially with Crosby out, being they're saying an upper body injury for him that he missed Game 6.
I know you don't like him, and it's something I've kind of said a few times on the show now, and I'll say it again. And I know it's redundant, but I think his career would be totally different if the game was played the way it used to be and you had enforcers.
Yeah, it would be different. It would be different. I mean, I hate to see – now, as you know, I'm not a Crosby fan, but I hate to see players of that caliber get hurt because they are talented players.
And he was a talented player.
Absolutely.
Still is. A talented player.
Yeah, still is.
But he's not what he was.
No, after that first major concussion at the Winter Classic a few years ago against Washington, he's not. I mean, he could have been a lot further in his career than what he is now with stats, but injuries you really can't help when you become a target. And
we're not going to have an indictment on the NHL with this. I just wanted to point that out.
But I mean, that series just went 3-3, Penguins Rangers, because the Rangers just won Game 6 tonight, 5-3. Capitals are going to overtime, like we said. We got there's 3 Game 6s, or I'm sorry, 3 Game 7s on Saturday, May 14th. So by the time you hear this, those games will probably be over because I expected Carolina to beat Boston more than what they have. Tampa, I kind of expected to roll over Toronto.
Yeah, but playoffs in any sport, teams go into that extra gear. And hockey is definitely one of the sports where, extra gear is needed.
Yeah.
So when there's, lesser teams showing up and playing their hearts out, it speaks a lot about the importance of playoffs and what it means to these players.
Well, the fact is that Toronto, though, every year they go into the playoffs. I think the last few years they played Boston, they couldn't get past the first round. They couldn't. And they go up against Tampa, who has just won the past 2 Stanley Cups, going for their 3rd in a row.
Here's a good question.
You know,
when do you consider it a dynasty? Is it 3 when you three-peat? Is that considered a dynasty?
Well, I know they considered it a dynasty when Chicago won it 3 times in 5 years.
Well, I'm just asking you personally. What do you consider a dynasty? Is it more? Is it 2 or is it after 3?
I mean, I think if you three-peat, yeah, you have a. Now it's hard to 4-peat. So if you win, let's say 3 Stanley Cups in 5 years, yeah, I consider that a dynasty. If you win 4 Stanley Cups in 5 years, that's definitely a dynasty.
Because you got to totally honest here. I mean, you look at the Bulls in the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
2 seasons they weren't in the finals. 2 seasons they didn't play for the they didn't win a championship. But there's 6 seasons that they did. I would say that's a dynasty, even with those 2 missed years.
Well, yeah, no, I would consider that dynasty as well. I mean, like I said, they consider Chicago a dynasty when they won 3 in, I think it was 5 years. You know, and if Tampa can win another one within the next 2 years, yeah, they, at least 1 or 2 more, and yeah, I consider that a dynasty for them, because I know right now, player Pat Maroon, he's going for his 4th straight Stanley Cup. Yeah, he won in 19 with St. Louis, and then the last 2 with Tampa. Now, how lucky do you have to be to hit that just right to where? I mean, how lucky do you have to be? I mean, that's 100% luck to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But Toronto, I just looked it up here real quick just to see if I was right. And in the 18 and 19 playoffs, they lost to the first round against Boston, Game 7. They lost to the Blue Jackets in the bubble, and then they lost to the Canadiens in the first round last season. So they can't make it out of the first round. So the fact that they have a Game 7 with Tampa right now, we'll see what's going to happen. Can they knock out the defending champions? Because right now there's only 2 teams that are advanced to the second round. Avalanche swept the Predators, and the Blues beat the Minnesota Wild 4-2.
Okay.
And there's Dallas and Calgary tonight. Calgary's trying to finish it out, and the Oilers and the Kings are going for 7. But if you think about it, there's not really that many overtimes happening this season, or actually this playoffs. I mean, there's a couple overtimes that happened, but not with the amount of games going on.
Right. Now, why do you think that is? I mean, just taking an educated guess as a lifelong hockey fan.
It's a faster game. It's a faster game than what it was back in early 2000s. It's a faster game. More talent, more speed. And
do you think at some point the game's going to balance out?
I mean, I think at one point, I think it was kind of early 2000s. I do think it was balanced out because you didn't have all the big finesse going on. You had your Eastern or your North American style, which was normally the grinding, the body checks, the fighting, the rough nose players. Then you have your European style, which was more finesse. And it was normally East was set to be European, East was normally North American hockey, which was, like I said, the hitting, the more physical aspect of the game, and European was more finesse. But I think after the lockout, I think it was 04-05.
Yep, that's about right.
Then we need, then that's when we saw a lot of the transition to all of European, when they basically took all the big hits out. When they took all the physical aspect out of the game.
I'm of the thought you can't have hockey without both, and I think it's why I have a hard time getting back into the game, because I appreciate the finesse and the technical skill of the faster, more finesse style players, but hockey is a physically demanding sport where you need to have physical presences on the ice who serve their role as well. So,
well, I think you still have the physical aspect on the ice, but not as it used to be back before the lockout in the 04-05.
Right.
before in lockout of 04-05, there was a lot of physical aspects to the game, a lot of hard hitting, a lot of what hockey used to be. But since then, it just seems, I mean, like I said, this is my opinion. Whoever's listening can, if you want to put an argument, fine. Well, we can talk about it. That's fine. That's, put it on to Facebook, do social media with it. That's fine.
We'll invite you on.
No, so this way we can, this way to hear your opinion on it. That's what we want to do. We want to hear your opinion on stuff like this. I mean, you hear ours, we want to hear yours. But I just feel like they need to bring back more of that style, because I think that will really give. I mean, I'm not saying to go head hunting, but to give more physical with it.
Yeah, to balance the game out.
And the Panthers just eliminate the Washington Capitals, so the
Panthers move into round 2.
And this was the first time they've won a series since '96.
That's early in their lifespan.
Well, that's when they lost the Stanley Cup to Colorado,
who's already in the second round with the Blues.
Yeah. And now I'm going to throw out some names here back when Florida was last, when they were in the finals back in '96. Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Patrick Waugh, John Van Viesbroek. I mean, those names are way, way, way back there. This was back when Florida scored a goal. They threw rubber rats onto the ice. But I just wish they would bring back the physical aspect of the game. I really do. But so far, it's been an entertaining playoffs.
That's good.
It's been a very entertaining playoffs. That's for sure. That is for sure. Now, I did hear, though, that I did hear arguments, and I'm glad it was just pushed to the wayside where they want to do a shootout in the playoffs.
No.
Exactly.
I understand the argument, but no.
No, at least keep that tradition going. Keep the 5-on-5, and when it stops, it stops.
Well, this ties into a discussion I had earlier this week. Ironically enough, at softball, watching my daughter play. Baseball does a lot of things to try and speed up the game and make the game more fan-friendly, but what they're missing out is they're trying to accommodate the game for an audience that isn't ever going to be there. And they take for granted the audience that is there. And I think to some degree, hockey is like that as well. Instead of trying to cater to an audience that you may never get, cater to the audience you have and grow it from there.
Well, here's the thing. If you entertain the audience you have, well, our friend up the road, Mike, he barely ever watched hockey, if at all, ever. He might have caught a game here and there.
Oh, dude, we could do 6 degrees of separation with you and converting people to hockey fans. So,
he was asking questions on the game, and he was getting more and more into it. And then he'd come up and watch more games, and sure enough, he'd be more and more into it.
Right.
So, you'd ask questions about it, and just getting, like you said, more and more fans into it. Because that's the thing. Yeah. It's just like baseball. If you can get younger fans into it, that grows everything.
You don't have to make wholesale changes. Really, my biggest argument is if you want more younger viewers for any sport, start them a little earlier. I mean, football got that taken care of because it's a Saturday afternoon kind of thing. But basketball during the week and baseball and hockey tend to start later. And that's not always conducive for younger fans to be able to watch. That's just my 2 cents.
I mean, some games start at 7:30. I think 7:30 is the average time, Eastern Standard Time, I should say. So, but that's the average. But the playoffs are soon in the second round, so it's definitely going to be interesting because Florida just advanced. So there's 3 teams in the second round. But yeah, hopefully we get some more good games. I know the Pens. Well, game 1, I think of the Pens Rangers game went. I think it was 3 overtimes, and I had to laugh because I was mentioning you. We just finished talking about the extensive overtime.
The overtime games.
Sure enough, there's 3. Which, hey, I love watching those types of games because the anticipation,
right?
Especially the further along it goes. So on that note, that would be the end of the first period. We'll be right back.
For listeners of the Non Letter Sports Podcast, if you visit fansidea.com and use the code NASPOD at checkout, you will get 10% off your order. fansidea.com is the place to go for custom-made jerseys, hoodies, shirts, and other gear. The perfect product, perfectly stitched, perfect sublimation, and perfect embroidery. 100% handmade and delivered on time. That's certainty, and it's their promise to you. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see David with his Flyers-inspired NASPOD hockey jersey. You can see me with my sublimated NASPOD jersey. And again, that is code NASPOD, NASPOD at checkout for 10% off your order at fansidea.com.